Hello everyone, welcome to a World of Warship Blitz video, and today's video is back to a bit of the basics. For me is a ship comparison video. So the Cossack, the Tier 8 Premium British destroyer, has arrived, and seeing as I have an affinity for British ships for some reason, I quite like to review this and find out what it's all about. Now, I have seen some of these in battle on my main account. This is the press account for those people wondering about the amount of gold and free experience at the top. This is, However, on my main account, I have seen some of these and fought against them, and I have an impression which I shall do a stats check of now to see if it is borne out. And I think I know which ship I should be comparing this with, but let's get going. So, from a survivability perspective, it has 16,000 hit points, and it has a 5% citadel protection, 10% flooding and fire resistance, 5%, 3% damage reduction, and torpedo damage reduction. So let's compare that with, let's say, the Ukikaze, which is a Kagero by another name. It has slightly more hit points than the Ukikaze. However, it has a lower damage reduction. So far the Cossack is not one of the stronger ships. Against the Loyang has an extra 300 hit points, 350, 380 something anyway. Has much higher damage reduction and torpedo damage reduction. So the Loyang is even tougher than the Cossack, and the Terrible, which is a huge 19,000 as opposed to 16,000 hit points, has the same damage reduction but a much larger hit point base. Of course it needs it because it has no smoke and it's a big target. So the Cossack, not that tough. Maneuverability, 35 knots is not bad, 7.7 seconds to full speed, not that bad either, pretty quick off the mark. Maximum traverse speed, 10 degrees per second. Now I do have one of the slots filled. I've tried to fill as many of the slots with the standard items as possible. That last slot would either get a speed, a steering, or a concealment, depending on where the ship goes once I look at the guns and the torpedoes. Or I play it a couple of times, one of the two. 35 knots, pretty quick. 10 degrees per second and 3.12 second turn time is very good. Let's go compare it with Ukikaze. Well, it turns harder than faster than the Ukikaze, but the rudder shift on the Ukikaze, so the initial responsiveness on the Ukikaze is higher. The Ukikaze is also 35 knots, 8 seconds to full speed, so comparable with Ukikaze. However, it has a faster turn rate. The Loyang, well, it even turns faster than the Loyang. It doesn't quite have the same. The Loyang has a slightly faster rudder shift, but 2.84 seconds compared with 3.12 seconds, nothing in it. Loyang goes 36, 37 knots. So the Loyang's a little bit faster and gets there just a smidgen faster. Of course, nothing's going to compare for speed with this. 45 knots, full 10 knots faster. It takes 10 seconds to get to full speed rather than 7 seconds, but that probably means overall its acceleration is the same. Maximum traverse speed, not that great, obviously, and turn time, slow into the turn at 4.37 seconds, 8 degrees per second, or 8.5 degrees per second in the traverse. Well, it takes a long time to turn around because it's going so fast. So yeah, obviously the Cossack is the most nimble, which is nice to see, because yeah, well, if it's a knife fighter, let's see how it goes. Well, if it's a knife fighter, it hasn't got the armor. Well, let's have a look at the guns. Right, let's have a look at the guns. 6-second reload jumps out at me. So it's got 8 times 220mm guns, right? So they're not 150mm. They're not big guns. They're small guns. 6-second reload seems pretty slow. 8.84 kilometer range, not too bad. It does, its fire damage, its HE damage and AP damage is almost the same, 3% fire chance. So I would probably put this, I'd start to compare this with Le Terrible, which is a long-range gunboat. Le Terrible, okay, then it doesn't have anywhere near the range of Le Terrible, which just, it has a slower reload. It does less damage, it has a lower fire chance. Its turrets turn faster, which is, well, you'd hope that because Le Terrible has the worst turning turret performance of all. Okay then, so my initial expectations was that the Cossack would be a bit of a long-range shell flinger, but it's not. So at 100 less damage per HE shell, although it has more guns, it has 8 guns rather than 5. So, right, indeterminate. Let's go have a check against the Loyang. The Loyang really is the gunboat, it's the Benson. So it has 8.16 kilometer range versus 8.84, so similar range. Although there is an option for plus 4% range in the elite skill with the Cossack, which I think I would be taking. It does comparable HE damage. It has 4 guns rather than the 8 of the Cossack. So let's go back and have a look at the Cossack. 4 times 2 is 8. So that probably makes up the difference. Obviously the turret traverse speed of the Low Yang is incredible at 30 degrees per second. I probably should change that first to something else, anything else, that because it doesn't need 30 degrees per second gun traverse. That's just nuts. Yukikaze, 5.5 second reload, 3 times 2, so 6 guns versus the 8. Still faster reload, much shorter range, comparable damage with a higher fire chance. Okay, so the Cossack, it says it's a gunboat, but I'm going to have to play that sucker to work this out. Right, torpedo tubes. Let's go for torpedo tubes. 1 times 4 torpedo tubes with a 50-second reload. 50 seconds is pretty quick. One set of 4 torpedo tubes is pretty low for a destroyer. The Akazuki has 1 times 5, I think, at this tier with a much longer reload. However, bear in mind what I've seen with the Gallant, that it fires, when you single fire the torpedoes, it fires them off the rack at random. So essentially you have 1 rack of 6, so 1 rack of 4 perhaps is a little bit more sensible, because if you try and fire single fire torpedoes, then you have racks with some torpedoes fired, some torpedoes there, and they don't reload. So, you know, essentially you've got a super wide spread of two lots of 3 super wide spread, or 1 lot of 6 all at once, and just doesn't seem to really work. So having a single torpedo tube means that you're not tracking as much. Those torpedoes, 3.6 thousand damage, 9 kilometer range. That 9 kilometer range is 63 knots. Let's go compare that with Yukikaze. Those torpedoes are, wow, those torpedoes don't do the same damage. They're 4,000 less damage. They reload a lot faster, and that's pretty useful. However, they go 9.36 kilometers versus 8.74, and at 63 knots. They're a bit slower than the Yukikaze, but they're pretty damn quick torpedoes. Let's go cheer that with the Low Yang. The Low Yang comes in at less than the Yukikaze, and Laterable is 8.42. So yeah, the terrible torpedoes load incredibly quick at 40 seconds, but 47 seconds is still going to come back pretty fast. 63 knots, 62 knots. So the Cossack's torpedoes are long range, a little bit slower, but still quick enough, and reload. Okay, then anti-aircraft armament, it has some. Congratulations, you're in the game. Surface detection is 5.93 kilometers. Okay, so if we take, oops, come back here. So if we take 10% off that, plus another, 10% off that, that would be essentially 0.6. It would take it down to 5.33. So the Low Yang is the master at 5.16. You can really sneak this thing into places. Yukikaze, 5.01. Well, actually, the Yukikaze's taken over from the Low Yang. The difference, of course, with the Low Yang is that it has smoke and sonar and guns. And if you get too close, yeah, it can be a world of hurt. Whereas the Yukikaze, if you get close, well, it's still a Japanese gunboat, torpedo boat, really. Obviously, the surface detection of Laterable is, well, pretty terrible, actually. And that's not an issue, really, because basically you spend most of your time shooting things at long range. I'll have to play the Cossack in order to work out what to put in that last slot, because with the other thing that the Cossack comes with, let's go check out some of its special stuff, is 6 fuel smoke, and those will be excellent for resetting your concealment, except they only last 10 seconds and it takes 20 seconds to reset your concealment, so go figure. So now with the Yukikaze, what I've discovered is the commander skill of Mistweaver should improve that. So Mistweaver Plus, because I have David Beatty, should improve that even further. This also has 2 sonar, which, yeah, in a destroyer, the Low Yang, the sonar, I use it occasionally. Mainly it's so that friendly battleships, to give pre-warning. So if you've got friendly battleships around and you're contesting a cap, you pop off the sonar so that everybody can see the torpedoes, because really, in an agile little destroyer, it's pretty unlikely that you're going to have much problems with torpedoes if you know what you're doing. Battle honours, Gets you some steel, lovely. 2 enemy destroyers in a battle. That gives you an idea that it's an anti-destroyer ship, which with its gunboat capability it should be. Elite ship bonus, main battery firing range plus 4%. I think that's where I would go, but I'll play a battle or two to make sure. So really that is the Cossack. Very interesting looking ship. High agility. Those guns will definitely benefit from that traverse. It'll be interesting to see how it plays in battle, and yeah, I'll get back to you. Anyway, I hope you found this worthwhile, and sorry if it's been a while since I've reviewed a ship. I probably should have done the Vanguard, but yeah, sorry about that. It's gone off sale, so there's not a lot of benefit doing that. But yep, back for the Cossack, and hopefully there's a line of British destroyers coming out soon. That would be nice, because they are out on PC. Italian cruisers are next, understand it, but British destroyers would be just lovely. Thanks for watching, catch you next time.